Think about this. Nakia wakes just drinking water from her tap in Flint, Michigan. This was back in 2015. She tragically miscarried.
And that same year, just one home in Flint, tested at over 14,000 parts per billion of lead.
14,000. We put that in perspective. 5,000 parts per billion is considered hazardous waste.
Right, hazardous waste levels. And the only safe level of lead in drinking water, it's 0. There is no safe level.
So fast forward. It's now July 2025, 10 years later. They've finally, quote, completed the lead pipe replacement program in Flint.
Well, mostly completed. It took 11 years, and they say 97% of pipes are replaced.
Okay.
You talk to residents, 82-year-old Carol Harris, she still buys bottled water, doesn't trust the tap.
Still doesn't trust it. And you mentioned Melissa Mays earlier.
Yeah, Melissa's story is just heartbreaking. Still battling Legionnaire's disease, autoimmune problems, seizures, high blood pressure. And her youngest son, he's 21 now, he has speech delays. Why? Because he unknowingly drank that poisoned water as a kid. I mean, the scars from this run deep, really deep.
And that's the truly terrifying part, isn't it? Flint is horrifying, but it's not. It's not an outlier. It's not some isolated accident.
No, not at all. It's part of a much bigger picture, a systemic pattern, really, that you see in communities all across the U.S.
So that's what we want to dig into in this deep dive. We're going to unpack this idea of environmental racism, really connect the dots between pollution and basic human rights. We'll look at the devastating human costs, but also, importantly, how people are fighting back.
And we're drawing heavily today from a really powerful blog post by the American Human Rights Initiative Foundation. They lay this out very clearly.
Okay, so let's start there. What exactly is environmental racism, according to the foundation?
They define it pretty starkly. It's the deliberate targeting of Black, brown, and poor communities for things like toxic waste sites, polluting industries, environmental hazards generally.
Deliberate targeting, that's a strong phrase.
It is. And they emphasize this isn't new, it's definitely not accidental, and the tragic reality is it's killing people every single day.
Okay, so if it is deliberate, that begs the question, why? Why these specific neighborhoods? What's the actual mechanism here?
Right. And the AHRI Foundation post outlines what they call the machinery of environmental racism. It's almost like a blueprint. It often starts, historically speaking, with redlining.
Redlining, back in the 30s.
Exactly. Federal maps literally marked Black neighborhoods as hazardous. That label basically opened the door for disinvestment and, crucially, made them targets for toxic facilities that, frankly, wealthier white neighborhoods wouldn't accept.
So it's literally baked into the system from decades ago. Wow.
It really is. And then you layer on top of that political powerlessness. Communities with less political clout, less representation, they just can't fight back effectively when a company wants to site a polluting facility nearby.
They don't have the lobbyists, the access?
Precisely. Then there's straightforward economic exploitation. Companies know that poor communities often lack the sheer financial resources needed for these long, drawn-out legal battles against corporations with deep pockets.
Right.
And then there's something called regulatory capture. This is where the polluting industries themselves gain influence over, or sometimes even place their own people within the very agencies that are supposed to be regulating them.
Wait, so the watchdog might actually be helping the polluter.
That's a very real danger, yeah.
I know.
And add to that, sometimes companies just withhold information about the health risks, especially in communities where English isn't the first language, making it even harder for people to know the danger they're in.
Okay.
And finally, there's the classic NAMY effect, not in my backyard. More affluent, often whiter, neighborhoods successfully push back against these facilities.
Pushing them into the Black and brown communities that have less power to resist.
Exactly. It creates this vicious cycle.
And there's actual data backing this up, right?
Yeah.
The report mentioned a key study.
Oh, absolutely. A really important study from 1987 found quite clearly that race was the single most significant factor in predicting where toxic waste facilities were located.
More than income.
Yeah.
More than property values.
More than income, more than property values. Race was the key variable. And when you look at the demographics today, it's just staggering. Think about this. 75%, 3/4 of Black Americans live in what are called fence-line communities.
Meaning right next door to industrial polluters.
Right next door, breathing that air day in, day out. Over 1 million Black Americans live within just half a mile of oil and gas wells.
A half mile?
Yeah. And for every Black or Hispanic person in the country, statistically, one lives within 3 miles of a Superfund site. These are the most toxic waste sites identified by the EPA.
So the exposure is just constant, pervasive.
It is. And look at who's breathing the pollution versus who's creating it. Black Americans breathe, on average, 56% more pollution than their consumption generates. Latinos, 63% more.
Well, what Americans?
Breathe 17% less pollution than they generate. It's completely upside down. The burden falls on those who contribute least to the problem.
That disparity is... Which leads us to places like Cancer Alley in Louisiana.
Cancer Alley, it's this 85-mile stretch along the Mississippi River, crammed with over 200 petrochemical plants, just pumping toxins into these, again, predominantly Black communities.
And the historical irony is just crushing.
It's chilling. This industrial corridor follows the exact same path as the old slave plantations. So the descendants of people enslaved on that land are now breathing poison from chemical plants built on that same land.
Unbelievable.
At one elementary school there, children are breathing a known carcinogen, chloroprene, at levels 11 times what the EPA considers acceptable.
11 times?
Yeah.
For children?
Yeah. It's gotten so bad that UN human rights experts actually called Cancer Alley a form of environmental racism that violates fundamental human rights. It's a crisis zone.
So we've seen the how and the where. Let's talk more about the what. What is the actual human cost? We touched on Flint, but let's go back there for a second.
Right, because the effects aren't just immediate. A study just last year, 2024, found measurable detrimental effects on Flint children's mental health and school performance. These kids, the report says, will carry the scars for the rest of their lives.
Lifelong impacts from poisoned water. And the immediate toll was devastating too, wasn't it?
Absolutely staggering. At least 12 people died from an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease linked to the water switch. Fertility rates for women in Flint dropped by 12%.
12%.
And there was a 15.5% increase in babies born with low birth weight. Plus, for the kids exposed to that lead, we're talking lifelong issues. Reduced IQ, learning disabilities. It's a generation spark.
This is profound betrayal. Which brings us to this concept you mentioned, the geography of death. The idea that your zip code matters more than your genes. How does that work?
It sounds hyperbolic, but the data is stark. The American Human Rights Initiative Foundation highlights this. In Chicago, for example, there's a 30.1-year difference in life expectancy between the downtown Loop area, where it's about 88 years, and West Garfield Park, just a few miles away, where it plummets to 63 years.
30 years. In the same city.
30 years. Washington, D.C., New York City both have gaps over 27 years. Dallas, an 18-year gap between neighborhoods just 6 miles apart.
Wow.
Look at Texas. Hutto, life expectancy 97 years. Fort Worth's Black South Side, 66.7 years. That's over 30 years difference.
These huge gaps.
Yeah.
They aren't just random chance, are they?
Not at all. The AHRI Foundation points out these aren't natural disasters. They're the result of policy choices.
Right.
Decades of them. Those neighborhoods with the lowest life expectancy, they map almost perfectly onto the areas that were redlined back in the 30s.
The same places targeted for disinvestment in toxic facilities.
Exactly. And race is consistently the strongest predictor. Black Texans, on average, live about 3 years less than white Texans. It's like that in city after city. This isn't biology we're seeing. It's racism manifesting in life years.
So beyond shorter lifespans, what about the day-to-day health burdens? How are people's bodies actually breaking down from living near this pollution?
Oh, the list is long and tragic. Asthma rates for Black Americans are 40% higher than for whites. We talked about the reduced IQ and developmental delays in kids.
Yeah.
You see skyrocketing cancer rates near petrochemical plants, like in Cancer Alley. Respiratory diseases are rampant in fence-line communities. Higher rates of birth defects, miscarriages, heart disease, stroke. It's a whole range of illnesses linked directly to toxic exposure.
And the mental toll.
Immense! Imagine knowing the air your kids breathe might be giving them asthma or worse, but you have no affordable option to move. It's a constant, grinding stress on top of the physical illness.
It feels overwhelming listening to all this. It's easy to feel hopeless.
Yeah.
The story doesn't end there, does it?
No, absolutely not. And this is crucial. These communities, they aren't just victims. They are fighters. They're warriors, really.
They're fighting back.
They are, and they have been for a long time. The whole environmental justice movement really kicked off, arguably, back in 1982, Warren County, North Carolina.
What happened there?
Predominantly Black residents literally laid down in the road in front of dump trucks to stop toxic PCB waste from being dumped in their community. Hundreds were arrested, but they drew national attention. They lit a fire.
And that fire is still burning today, with leaders like Sharon Levine in Cancer Alley.
Exactly, Sharon Levine. She founded Rise St. James to fight the relentless expansion of petrochemical plants there. She's faced death threats, intimidation.
Wow.
But she persisted and actually won the Goldman Environmental Prize, which is like the Nobel Prize for environmental activism. Her quote just captures it. "Our lives are worth more than another plant in the community."
That says it all. And she's not alone, right? The AHRIF report mentions a whole network of groups.
Oh, tons of them. You've got groups like 1EE-ACT for Environmental Justice in New York, fighting for cleaner air in Harlem since '88. The Indigenous Environmental Network, protecting sacred lands. Black Millennials for Flint, still demanding justice and clean water. The Gulf Coast Center for Law and Policy, providing vital legal backup. The California Environmental Justice Alliance, building political power. The Climate Justice Alliance. It's a real movement.
So what are they doing? What kinds of strategies are working? Are they getting wins?
They're using everything they can. Lawsuits, definitely. Community organizing to build power. Doing their own research, air monitoring, health surveys to document the harm, direct action protests.
Like in Warren County.
Yep. And yes, they are winning. They've stopped permits for new polluting facilities. They've forced existing plants to cut emissions or install better pollution controls. They're making a difference, step by step.
Okay, so if we want real lasting change, what does that look like? What are the actual solutions at work?
The AHRI Foundation outlines some really key, proven solutions. A huge one is cumulative impact assessments.
Cumulative impact, meaning?
Meaning you don't just look at the pollution from one new proposed factory in isolation. You have to look at the total pollution burden that a community is already dealing with from all sources combined. Is this new facility the straw that breaks the camel's back?
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because these places are already saturated.
Exactly. Another vital piece is community consent. Basically, requiring the approval of the affected community before a potentially hazardous facility can be built there, giving people a real say.
Giving power back to the residents.
Right. And then for existing polluters, forcing them to retrofit with the best available technology, or if they can't or won't meet safety standards, forcing them to shut down.
What about the economic side? Jobs are always the argument.
That's where just transition programs come in. Supporting workers and communities as we shift away from polluting industries towards cleaner ones, retraining programs, investment in green jobs.
So it's not jobs versus health.
It shouldn't be, and frankly, that's often a false choice pushed by polluters. These plants often bring fewer local jobs than promised, and the long-term health costs borne by the community. They dwarf any supposed economic benefits. Clean energy, sustainable industries, those create good jobs without poisoning people.
And the report also mentioned reparations and green investment.
Yes, reparations specifically for the decades of harm these communities have endured. And green investment funding things like parks, urban farms, clean energy projects, better infrastructure directly in the hardest hit areas.
Are places actually doing any of this?
Some are starting to. California and New Jersey have passed laws that incorporate cumulative impacts and give communities more power. But it's patchwork. We really need strong federal action to ensure everyone is protected, no matter their zip code or the color of their skin.
And this all connects to the bigger climate crisis too, doesn't it?
Absolutely critical point. The very same communities suffering most from industrial pollution are also on the front lines of climate change impacts. Heat waves, flooding, extreme weather, they hit these marginalized communities first and worst. So fighting for environmental justice is fighting for climate justice. They're two sides of the same coin.
It really boils down to something fundamental, doesn't it? Clean air, clean water.
Yeah.
These should be basic human rights, not luxuries.
Exactly, not privileges.
Right. And yet, as Melissa Mays from Flint reminded us, even now, 2025, 10 years on, we still have discolored water. The water still smells bad. It's still happening.
And the American Human Rights Initiative Foundation is blunt about this. They state that companies know what they're doing. Politicians know who suffers. Regulators know the health impacts.
But it continues.
It continues because, implicitly or explicitly, there's a calculation being made that some lives matter less than others.
The American Human Rights Initiative Foundation frames this squarely as a human rights issue. Clean air, water, a healthy environment. They argue these aren't just nice things to have, they're fundamental to human dignity.
Absolutely. Their work reflects that. They partner directly with these frontline communities, helping them document health problems, build legal cases against polluters.
So they provide that crucial support.
They do. And they push for policy change, advocating for those cumulative impact assessments, for community consent laws, fighting for strong federal environmental justice legislation. Plus, they work to empower residents directly, training them to monitor air quality, understand their rights, organize effectively.
Okay, so for someone listening right now, feeling outraged, wanting to help, what can you actually do?
Well, AHRI suggests several things. First, support the frontline groups. Donate directly to organizations led by people in the affected communities. They know what's needed most.
Makes sense. What else?
Demand those cumulative assessments. Tell your elected officials, local, state, federal, that we need to look at the total pollution burden, not just permit one factory at a time in already overburdened areas.
Use your voice politically.
Yes. And show up. Attend public hearings when polluters are trying to get permits, especially in communities of color. Your physical presence sends a message.
Amplify their voices too, right?
Infinitely. Share the stories from fence-line communities. Follow and promote the leaders doing the work on the ground. Also, think about where your money is. Consider divesting from banks and institutions that finance fossil fuels and major polluters.
And the ballot box.
Crucial. Vote for candidates who make environmental justice a clear priority. And finally, they suggest, learn your history. Understand how we got here, how redlining, segregation, and racist policies created these sacrifice zones in the first place.
So the real question isn't if environmental racism exists. The evidence is overwhelming.
Right. The real question is, are we going to keep tolerating it? Are we going to keep sacrificing Black and brown lives, indigenous lives, poor lives for corporate profit?
Are we okay with 30-year life expectancy gaps in the richest country on Earth? Because that's what we have right now.
Your zip code should not determine how long you live. Your race should not determine your risk of getting cancer. Your income should not determine if you have clean air to breathe.
Do we truly believe that all lives have equal value? Our answer to that question, acted upon, will decide whether kids in Flint, in Cancer Alley, and countless other communities get a chance at a full, healthy life.
Or whether we continue to treat them as disposable. The choice really is ours. Their lives are effectively in our hands.
If you want to learn more, get involved, support this vital work, please visit the American Human Rights Initiative Foundation's website.
That's AmericanHumanRightsInitiativeFoundation.org. Your donation directly supports their fight for human rights, funding legal aid, advocacy, community empowerment. Every dollar helps.
You can also subscribe to their newsletter there to stay updated on their work and ongoing campaigns. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.